Imagine a conscious contact with God so strong that no matter what you are doing or not doing, that no matter what your kids are up to or not up to, and that whether you've got the person of your dreams or they're just not cooperating, that you are happy, content, and at peace. A space where everyone else's thoughts, attitudes, and actions are beautiful and exactly as they are supposed to be. Well, this is the space where I like to play. My name is Mischa Z, and this is today's Bitch Slap. Join me as I shed light on the thoughts, actions, and attitudes that are causing you pain, and we train our minds to go to the capital S inner self, the joy that is waiting for us, the God within. Covert anger, part 5. How amazing is this, that this is just turning into we could almost call it a series. Perhaps this is going to turn into maybe we'll get her done in episode 5, but covert anger / subversive anger. And again, my justifiable anger, or a quote that I love is, anger is the dubious luxury of normal men. Some people can afford to be angry, and it does not affect them or perhaps their relationships. Me, it is a luxury I cannot afford, and the universe squeezes me. Like as I am on a growth trajectory, bad habits get squoze out of me, and sometimes that's uncomfortable and painful. And those are, again, this is not to place judgment on anybody else. It's just, and not even myself, just to talk about my own experience. So I can have anger issues that are justifiable because they don't seem extreme to me. And for me, it culminated in, and so there's the subversive side of it, where it's subversive, I'm subverting, or I'm doing damage to personal relationships, right? They're not as clean and yummy as they could be. The more I have love in my relationships, the better. So, last episode I was getting to the point where the peak for me was fighting with young Waylon. And I believe he was 9. Yes, 9 years old. No, perhaps 10. Yes, 10, 9, 10-ish. It was definitely 9 years old, where we were fighting yet again about his homework. And he was literally sobbing. And this would happen a few times. Dad, I just want a hug. And God bless him for, if you're listening to this, Waylon, I love you. I probably shouldn't have said your name, but whatever. God bless Waylon for hanging in and saying what he needed. Right? And not internalizing that. Well, it's not as far as I'm aware, but at least not, if he was, not internalizing it more than he was, and asking for love. And by the grace of God, I would hear it in those moments. I would be like, oh my God, I've lost my mind again over freaking math, right? And I was tired of making the false promises. And I have done that before when I was in my youth as a teenager, addicted to alcohol and drugs. The promises of I'll quit, I'll stop, this won't happen again. Whatever, behavior that was really wreaking havoc. And then, it took a come to Jesus moment, man. Like, it took a bottom to be willing to stare those addictive patterns in the face, and then, by the grace of God, be willing to do the work to make the changes. And so my bottom with the next level of anger with me. So, I stripped away most of the big stuff, or so it seemed, and now I'm yet still fighting with Waylon to the point of tears again and again, where I can no longer make, faulty promises. I can no longer do that. And so, how did things change further from there? Well, you know what they did? What I did was, I was like, okay, I'm going to go buy a couple of books on anger. Because clearly I've been in denial about this anger not being an issue. I would really like to learn how to tackle homework with love. And, if they're not going to get the homework done or comprehend it, why does there have to be tears about it? Why can't you just go straight to hugs and support that way? Why do we have to have the peak chaos moment? Anyhow, I had said that as a father, I've been very lucky to practice two styles. First was demand respect, my way or the highway type of a thing, under the guise of open-mindedness. Oh my God, I could go so deep. There's so many layers here. Are any of you relating? I don't know. Any of you had this experience? I think at least some of you will get to some extent what I'm talking about. So I bought a couple of books on anger. One was like the Work Out Your Anger workbook. I wish I could remember what the names of these books were. And I'll go search my bookshelf, but I think I donated them at one point because I was like, yes, I've sorted through those major hiccups, and I can tackle most things with a loving attitude more than ever, which is super cool. But anyhow, so I started the process on the books. It was the act of buying those books that accelerated the change. And so it wasn't necessarily the books themselves. Like, one of them I gave a cursory glance. The workbook one I started, and I think it started with, write down these, areas where you're angry and perhaps supposedly not. Doesn't matter. I started the workbook, but what it did was it opened my mind to this thought, and going deeper with this thought. Anger is a result of fear. Anger is a result of fear. So what am I fearful about? And at this point I'm meditating, and I'm willing to contemplate thoughts on a deep level and perhaps write about them. I guess is what I'm trying to say, instead of just, there's that thought, and then turning away from it. So I was like, all right, I need to think on and write on what are my fears that this anger is manifesting out of. What are my fears that this anger is manifesting out of? And that's a great question. So I'm going to challenge you to do two things before I move on to part 6. One is, if you have situations where you think you're angry, but your intuition is, okay, yelling's not cool, or maybe you yell and you think it is cool. Like, what are my fears? What are my fears here? What's the fear? Not what am I angry about? Like, my kid's not getting his homework done, or he's just not doing it, or she's not saying things my way. What is the fear? And then 2, if you don't have kids, or if your kids are out of the house, what are examples in your current life of how that are like what I'm describing that I was having with my kids? Like what are some behaviors where you and I can be less angry and be more loving? All right, look for part 6, I think it is. Thank you for your patience. I'm trying to be of service and trusting that this conversation is of service. All right, peace out. Thank you for spending time with me today. As someone who is committed to growth and service to this world, I so appreciate your willingness to come with me, go within, and serve our world through change. If you found value in this podcast and you know someone who can use this message, share this episode with them. Share it so our mission can be achieved one episode at a time. And of course, subscribe so you can hear more. And lastly, for more resources on what has helped me on my journey and can help you on yours, go to belove.media/resources. That's BELOVE.media/resources. Thank you again for listening.